What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Flyer and Ice, episode 18, brought to you by the Heat Ratio Sports Network. And in honor of Nicky Nuts starting this theme, episode 18 will be dedicated to Ross Lonsberry.
Okay.
Number 18 of the Stanley Cup teams. I went way back on that one.
Mike Richards might have something to say about that.
Forget about Mike Richards.
That's what
Ross Lonsberry did not party too hard. All right. So we will not waste any time talking in depth about the Flyers past season. That is officially over. And we will quickly move on to the Flyer Awards, the League Awards, the playoffs. We're going to cover a lot of stuff today. But I'd be remiss if I didn't introduce my team. With me, as always, is the great Vance Crew, the great Nicky Nuts, and the great Nick Tosti. Gentlemen, thank you as always for joining me, and we are going to have an awesome show. So I'm going to start off with you, Nick. We didn't do post games towards the end of the year because, frankly, we were toasted. It was hard to talk about the same topic over and over again. But we did not discuss Cam York at all since he became a Flyer. So, Nick, tell me your thoughts on Cam York.
The young man had a very good debut. Being thrown right into the fire there, he showed all of the things that I think had, been on a scouting report throughout his development, at NTDB and at Michigan. Super smart and great vision, like really just good vision. He looks like he's the guy that can captain this power play right out of the gate. His skating is very good. He moves well on the power play on the top of the umbrella. He passes the puck, which is great. He's trying to find people that are open, which is going to hopefully allow as we get this power play back to where we think it can be, players to be open, get passes, and then get better shot opportunities. And defensively, he's very smart. I mean, he took the challenge of being down low on the forecheck with the puck and did very, very well. He got out of a lot of situations where I think maybe some of our defensemen haven't, and caused the other team to regain possession when they're dumping deep into our zone. So, but I mean, he checked all the boxes, I thought, and it's very nice to see. I mean, he'll be here for quite a bit, as long as we don't run into this issue that we're having, this possible issue we're having with and how he's dealing with some of the younger players. But very, very happy on my end.
Vance, did he give you any kind of reminder of a younger version of Kimmo Timonen? At times he had that kind of smooth, poised style, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would say so. He came as advertised. Remember, months ago, Dan, we were talking about him in the report that I read about him always being in the right place on defense and always, making the right reads and making the right pass. And that's exactly what he did when he came up. I don't know if he stood out necessarily offensively, but he did everything. He did everything well. You notice that he didn't turn the puck over as much as other guys that have been on this team, the whole season. He was very decisive with, where he was going with the puck, made quick decisions, and, he pretty much came as advertised. I'm looking forward to seeing more from him offensively last year, but the defensive potential is what I'm excited about, because he made the simple plays. He made plays that guys that were veterans on this team couldn't make all season.
Yeah. No, I agree. Mr. Nuts, your thoughts on the few games we saw of Cam York?
I think he held himself like a veteran. Honest to God. I thought when he had the puck in his end, he didn't play with it. And when he was in the offensive end, he found the open area on an ice. And he's willing to shoot the puck. That's what we needed all year, was somebody willing to shoot the puck. And he did it. And I have high hopes up for him. I mean, at one point he took the puck from one end and went all the way down and then passed it once he got into the zone. But he brought it all the way from one end to another. Who does that in this day and age? Who knows? But he impressed me. and he did all the little things that you have to, like, even when he's in the zone and the puck is away from him, he's constantly looking around to see if somebody's backdooring him. And we've had that happen to us time in and time out all season, where the back defender isn't doing their job, which is to make sure that there's nobody coming for the back door. And he did that. And I have high hopes for him.
No, I agree with you. That goes to Vance's point that he's an extremely bright defenseman, very responsible. No, he was as advertised, as Vance said, as Nick said. So yeah, that was definitely a bright spot. And in fact, I would have liked to see him get more number one power play time in meaningless games. There was a couple times he got on, but like Nick has said in the past, maybe there was 20 seconds left on the power play. So what good are you really doing if you don't give the guy an opportunity to show himself? We've got a couple Facebook users popping in.
Nice.
Hello, Facebook user. How are you?
Welcome to the show.
Welcome, Facebook user.
Thanks for checking in. All right, so the Flyers had their end of the year awards that they always have, and I remember on Twitter a few of the people out there, some of the popular internet writers saying so and so should win the Bobby Clark Award. This one should win the Pelle Lindbergh Award. And I disagreed with a pretty prominent writer, again, not in a disrespectful way. And the guy that I thought the two guys that I thought should have won the awards. So anyway, I'll go over each award, and you guys tell me if you agree with the choice and if that's who you had. So the first Flyer winner was the Gene Hart Award, which, with all due respect, that goes to the player with the most heart. That's a hard one to really choose. The winner was Coots. I would have gone with Braun, not because it's a skill thing, because that guy does give it his all. In my opinion, for a guy that has limited skills, he gets brutalized on the ice, and he always gets right back up. So I do, as much as I've bashed Braun this year, the guy does have heart, in my opinion. But it went to Coots. Who did you think should have won the Gene Hart Award? Vance?
I don't think they got it wrong with Coots. Coots is the heart and soul player. He's the glue player of this team. You saw what they looked like when he went down, and you saw the effect that he had initially when he came back from injury. I don't ever think it's a bad idea to give that award to Sean Couturier. I understand what you're saying about Braun, but Couturier is the heart and soul of this team. That's just my opinion.
All right. No. I guess I interpreted the award differently. Again, I guess you can go any direction with that. But yeah, I have no argument with that. Nicky T.
I don't have an argument with either Coots or Braun. I think they're both deserving. My choice would have been one of my favorites for a lot of years now, always showing heart and just will do anything is asked of him, any role on the team, and that's Scott Loughton. I feel like that player in particular is never questions anything, never complains. You're playing on the fourth line with NAK, okay. You're playing up with Giroux and Konechny, okay. Back checks, forechecks, block shots, hustles. Just an all around guy with the biggest heart, that you could ask for. So that was my pick. But I don't disagree with any of the choices that we've just come on this panel here.
And real fast, Nicky Nuts, going back to Nicky T's point, you just described someone that would be a good captain or assistant captain. Am I correct? And yeah. I see that in Lawton's future if things should change down the road. But anyway,
I don't disagree with Lawton.
So, Nicky Nuts, who did you predict would get the award, and are you okay?
I actually had Coots.
Okay.
Just because he played a lot of games this season. He wasn't injured too many of them. And he was the consistent basis of the Flyers this year. He didn't do too much. He didn't do not enough. He was right in the middle, and that's kind of where you want your heart guy to be, right in the middle. You don't want him to be too far wacko, and you don't want him too held back that he can't contribute. But Lawton, I also think he's also a team guy because he did take a team friendly contract, and he wants to be here. He obviously made that point that he wants to be here with that contract signing. So I could have gone with either one.
All right. So the next award went to was named after Yannick Dupre, who was a Flyer who passed away from cancer. Am I correct, gentlemen?
Yes.
And I remember when he came up, he was a solid player. Wasn't a special player, but regardless, it's a shame that the young man lost his life so young. And that's the Class Act Award. The Flyers gave it to JVR. And listen, none of us are in the locker room. We're not interviewing players Zoom-wise. So I'm not going to have a big to-do over this one. JVR seems like a class act to me. I thought Brian Elliott always comes off as a complete gentleman and class act. So that was my projection, but I have no qualms with JVR winning it. I'll start with you, Nicky Nuts.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that at all. I thought that was a spot-on choice, and he's deserving.
Okay, Vance.
Yeah, I agree with Nicky Nuts. He seems to be a mild-mannered model type of player. Like if you were, bringing young guys into your locker room, that's the kind of veteran that you would want them around. So I have absolutely no issue with him winning the award.
And Mr. Tosti.
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to know him personally and had, conversations with him, been around him. He's taken my kids down, for pictures outside of the locker room and been around my son through youth hockey. And I could tell you that he is an absolute gem. Just a like you said, mild-mannered, polite, grew up in a great family, very respectful. Just a very, very good guy. Really good guy. He's one of the real good guys.
Plus, you do notice with him that he's always talking to the young guys on the bench all game. And, and he has a way of putting it to them. Even his press conference, when he does his press conference, he just has a demeanor, even when he has a young guy next to him, and he holds himself to that caliber. And I think he's bringing these young guys along on that part of the game. Because you know what? A lot of rookies and a lot of young guys don't know how to talk to the media and don't know how to handle that. And I think he's a great advocate for that part of the hockey game.
Nope. So we are pretty much in agreement that you can't go wrong with that type of an award. So the next award, and these aren't in any particular order, the Pelle Lindbergh Award. Again, a player that at least Nicky T and myself got to watch. And I remember where I was, who called me and woke me up in the morning to tell me that he passed away. The Pelle Lindbergh Award. He was our star goalie that was speeding in a Porsche, and he hit a wall in Voorhees.
Yep.
And the rest is history. So, but that goes to the most improved player. Now, my projection was the guy that won it, and I don't think it was rocket science to pick this guy. I give Vance all the credit in the world. At the beginning of the year, Vance was all over Joel Farabee having a breakout year, and that's who won it. He did have a breakout year, 20-goal scorer. And I think we'd all be in agreement if he was used correctly by AV. Maybe he would have scored 25 goals this year.
And the whole season.
Well, I'm just talking from the perspective of even in a shortened season, he would have had 25 goals. In a full season, he might have been close to 40.
Exactly.
That's my point. Yeah.
So he's definitely one of the keepers on this team. So I'll start with you, Nick. Are you content with Joel Farabee winning the Pelle Lindbergh Award?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's to me, that was the obvious choice.
Right.
It's going to be awesome to see how much more he does improve, with a quote unquote normal year under his belt in the next upcoming season. And hopefully we see AV start to understand that some of these younger players are really going to need to contribute for what we're trying to do, the ultimate goal in reaching the playoffs. And he's going to need to rely on Farabee. So for sure. Yeah, I totally agree with that one.
No. Yeah. So Vance and Nicky Nuts, thumbs up if you're in agreement. That's what I figured. Moving on.
Yeah.
We don't want to take too much time with the obvious. Now, believe it or not, the Barry Ashby Award, and Barry Ashby was a original Flyer who, during their first Stanley Cup run in the Rangers series, took a slap shot to the eye. So he never got to play in the Stanley Cup Finals, and he really never played ever again. He then was diagnosed a few years later with leukemia and passed away, and they named the Barry Ashby Award after him and also retired the number 4. And I had the privilege, small world story, to teach health and PE to his grandchildren when I was in my previous school district. Just a wonderful family. His daughter was a wonderful lady. That's the connection. So some of the sports writers that I were reading on the internet were very firm in believing that Justin Braun should have won the Barry Ashby Award, and I couldn't have disagreed more. I said it has to go to Provorov. Granted, he did not have a Provorov-like year, but based on this core, he still is the heart and soul of the core. He still plays the most minutes. He plays all valuable points of the game, power play, penalty kill. Am I wrong, gentlemen, for believing it was slam dunk Provorov? I'll start with you, Vance.
No, I think you're spot on, Dan. I think even Provorov's worst year is still probably better than Braun's best year. I mean, you look at it, as bad as the Flyers were defensively this year, Provorov still managed to be a plus player and still chip in 7 goals. I mean, you can be down on him, but can't be down on him that much to give the award to somebody else. He's far and away the best defenseman on this team right now.
And real fast, Adam is kind enough as always to check in. It was Adam, Mr. Facebook user. His identity finally popped up. He agrees with the Farabee choice as well, and I'm sure you do with Provorov, Adam. Nicky Nuts, Provorov, Braun, and even people put Ghost as their winner because
I totally agree with Provy.
Okay,
I totally that's a slam dunk to me. To be honest with you, I think he's probably like 4th, 5th most important player on this team this year. Because he does use so many minutes, and he is the cornerstone of the defense, and he's on every power play. He almost never gets hurt, almost never.
He plays hurt. He doesn't miss games. Yeah,
he's a consistent player. Which with this season that they had, which was so inconsistent, he's that guy that you can just say he did his part, what he does. And he lops up a lot of minutes, and he does a lot of heavy lifting.
No, there's no doubt. I mean, I think we're all in agreement. He didn't have his best year, but I think there is a malaise on this team that we just can't explain. Nick, I assume that you believe Provorov as well, but could you make an argument for Ghost, like one of the prominent sports writers did that I read about?
I think if you went with the last third of the season, it would have been Ghost. If you went, post waiver situation, he was the better defenseman. And something clicked there, and we'll have to see if that continues. If he's even on this roster next year, hopefully he is. I really feel like I'd like to see him there. But I think with Provorov, when you say there's no explanation, and there really isn't for what happened, unless you talk about how much he's actually playing, and is that contributing to his fatigue? Is that contributing to things that maybe would, he would be more suitable for his type of game if he's not playing as much as he's playing? Not to say I want to see him play less, but there does come a point where you could play too much. I mean, you could be on the ice too much, and you will fatigue. I mean, it's just natural. A defenseman in the NHL is not Superman. And so I'd like to see him. I'd like to see his minutes come down a little bit, assuming that we can get somebody to fill in a couple of those vacancies that we're talking about. But he'll bounce back. He'll bounce back fine.
Nicky Nuts, you had something to say.
They're not Superman? Come on. Come on. I don't buy that for a second. They're not Superman. I don't buy it for a second.
Man.
So Nick T, to your point, I think, we need to manage our expectations a little bit more with Provorov because we view him as this 1A defenseman. And the truth of the matter is, to me, he's the 1A defenseman on the Flyers. But when you look around the league, he's not exactly in that. He's a tier below some of those top guys. And I think if you have him in a different role, I think you'll get a better player. Like, for example, Provorov on a really good team, on a Stanley Cup team, is not your power play quarterback. No. He's not. He's probably on your second unit of power play, as a power play quarterback. So I think, just things like that, the way the Flyers use him, they use him a particular way because he's the best defenseman that they have. So, I think we need to manage our expectations with him. I think he's a really good player, but he's not the 1A defenseman that a lot of fans try to make him out to be in Philadelphia. And because we have those expectations, I think we expect too much at times.
And I'm one of those guys. I believe at the beginning of the year, Vance, that I was outraged that he was on some top defenseman list, like number 25. I was like, they're not giving this guy any respect, but maybe they saw something that I didn't. But I also contend, and you guys have brought this up, what if he was on Nashville? They seem to coach up their defensemen very well over there. It seems like every defenseman in Nashville is extremely steady, and almost every team would love to have. So I think it goes back to coaching as well. Yep. No players above coaching. But anyway, moving on to the Bobby Clark Award. Obviously, our legendary captain, most famous Flyer of all time, is the team's MVP. That was probably the most controversial pick. I saw a lot of different viewpoints. I picked Coots in my projection before the award came out, and he indeed won it. My logic was, as Vance stated earlier, he's the heart and soul. He plays every facet of the game. He's a top defender. He missed 9 games, and Nicky Nuts, you said he didn't miss much time this year. He actually missed 9 games, and that's when they really started slumping prior to their March swoon. Remember they had that smoke and mirrors really good start, Vance, and then he got hurt, and they really that's when it started to decline. But missing 9 games, he only was 2 points off of the top scorer pace on the team. So I didn't think it was even much of a debate, but a lot of people were livid. I wouldn't say livid, that Claude Giroux didn't get it. But I found Claude Giroux invisible at times, and even when he was productive, it was in the latter stages of the game. Yeah, it's important to score and empty net goal. Good for you, Claude. But where were you the first 40 minutes of the game? So I'm not Claude bashing. I respect his bounce back that he had. But I was content with Coots, and I believe he earned it. I'll start with you, Nicky Nuts.
Yeah, I can't argue with you. I think he's the perfect guy to get that award.
Thank you, Dean, for checking in. Dean is an old friend of mine. Dean, great to see you. Thanks for checking in, watching our show.
He's talking about Vance there. Very knowledgeable.
Yeah, exactly.
No. I was just thanking him for joining the show. But yeah, he meant one of the 3 people not wearing a hat. So I'm sorry. While acknowledging my buddy Dino, did Nicky Nuts? Did you finish your point?
I basically finished.
I'm sorry if I cut you off. I apologize.
That's cool. I'm just saying he's like the Keith Primo of a team. When he's gone, you really notice he's gone. And when he plays, he does everything that he needs to do. And my reference to Keith Primo, when he was out of the lineup, you just knew he wasn't on the team. You knew he wasn't in the lineup just by the way they played. And he's that same way. When he's not on that ice, you can see it. And it's a feel. You also can feel it. And for that reason, you got to give it to him.
No, I agree. But I will say this in Claude's defense. if he missed a few games, we would miss him as well. We would notice him. But the thing is, it's not like a competition. You say Claude is so phenomenal on draws, but so is Coots.
Mm-hmm.
So they're both valuable. So I mean, I understand the argument, but I just lean towards Coots. Nicky T.
I'm in complete agreement. And actually, Nick, that's what one of the ways I try to assess an MVP is exactly that. Try and picture what that team would look like if that particular player wasn't there, and go through the lineup and see how much your team would hurt when that player is not there. And I look at Coots as that guy, and I look at Drew as that guy too. I mean, you would notice if Drew wasn't there. So I think it's a 1-1A kind of thing. Couturier is very, very deserving of that award, and I think Drew would have been too.
Yeah.
The Flyers fans here in this city really got to understand how much he does away from the puck, and how much he contributes, his selflessness to a game, and not it be all about scoring. And obviously we would like to see him score more, but I had Couturier as my pick, so I was happy to see that.
And I know how you feel, Vance, but I'll let you close this segment.
Yeah, Drew is always going to be a fan favorite. He's been the best Flyer for years, but at this point, the truth of the matter is Couturier is probably the best player on the team. Although he doesn't wear the C. So, I can understand some fans and their loyalty to G because he's been great, over the years. And like you said, you really can't argue either way. But the truth of the matter is, at least in my opinion, Couturier is the best player on the team at this point. He plays both sides of the ice just as well as anybody in the NHL.
Dirty spots too.
Right.
He plays down in the trenches. He's not afraid to get dirty, which is that's what I like to see out of my most valuable player, is that he does everything on the ice, and he most definitely does.
Right.
All right, gents. So it's good to see that great minds think alike. We are all in agreement across the board with all the Flyer awards. Now let's try to take a projection of the league-wide awards. So we'll give our predictions. Now, Vance and I gave our predictions at the beginning of the year, but let's give our prediction of what we think is going to happen now. And perhaps I'm not. When do they announce the awards? After this? Well, after the Stanley Cup?
I think it's during. Don't they announce? Did they announce it during the playoffs or after the? No, it's after the season.
They have like an award ceremony, a banquet type of thing. But just since we're doing a Flyer award, let's do league awards, and then we'll get that out of the way. So let's start with the Norris Trophy winner. That would go to the league's best defenseman. Now, Vance and I can discuss, because we started the show together many months ago. Vance went Victor Hedman, I believe.
I did.
And that was definitely a brilliant, safe choice. I'm not busting on you. I wanted to take a little bit of a gamble, and I went Cale Makar. So, Vance, who do you think right now, though? Do you think your prediction sticks, or do you go somewhere else?
I think Victor Hedman is still a really good choice, but if I had to give the award to a player, at least in my opinion, the best defenseman that I've seen this year, it was Adam Fox.
Yeah.
He played, the Norris Trophy is about playing both sides of the ice. He's excellent defensively. He led all defensemen in scoring this year, only by 2 points over Victor Hedman, but he's an outstanding player. And to be honest, I really didn't see it coming. Maybe a lot of you guys did before the season, but he's a great player, and I truly believe that he's deserving of the award.
Well, I know that Nick has been all over Adam Fox, so I know Nick's going to be in complete agreement with that. Am I right, Nick?
Yeah, that was my pick. Yeah, so you can go right to Nicky Nuts.
No, he's fine too. I love
this show is one of my everybody's thunder's getting stolen because we all have the same mindset.
Right? I absolutely love that kid.
No, but to my pick's defense, Cale Makar did not have a chop liver year either. He's also in the 40-point range of defensemen in scoring. So he's had a solid year, but I too, you know who could be a sleeper? Because I think what could hurt Adam Fox, and tell me, gentlemen, if you think I'm wrong, is the fact that the Rangers didn't make the playoffs. And if that's held against him, could a guy like Chris Letang sneak in there? He's had a very solid year. and obviously Hedman, his team's obviously in the playoffs as well. So if they hold the playoffs against Adam Fox, and I think it's a great choice, would you be surprised if Letang was a sleeper in that award?
I thought Tyson Barrie maybe even. I mean, helping Edmonton really get to where they're going right now. But there's so many that are worthy. I mean, these young kids, and it's a young player's game right now. And well, Letang's not that young anymore, but he's worthy too. It's really to me it comes down to Fox just because, like Van said, his all-around game is tremendous. I mean, he can play defense. He can beat, he can come in on the rush. He can be really smart in his own zone when the forecheck, when the pressure is on him. But I don't think there's really a wrong choice if it wasn't if it was Hedman or if it was Barrie or if it was Fox or Letang, yeah, I'm with Vance. I'm all over Fox.
Yeah, Adam Fox is would be a nice player to have. And again, a 3rd-round pick, so you can find gems out there that aren't first rounders. So let's go to goalies. We'll go with the Vezina. My preseason prediction was Jacob Markstrom. Vance went safe again with Vasilevsky, and I think Vance is in good shape again. Now, Markstrom, he had a solid year, but the Flames in general did not play that great. So, Vance, are you sticking with Vasilevsky as winning this award?
Yeah, I'd be shocked if he didn't win it.
Yeah,
especially with the injuries that they've had, with Kucherov and Stamkos being out for a period of time. They still have a lot of really good players on that team. But he's really the piece that holds it all together. Like you look at those numbers, like 31-9, .926 save percentage. Like he's had another outstanding season. I really don't see how you can give it to anybody other than him.
Yeah.
Well, real fast, I'm sorry to interrupt. The one guy that has the killer save percentage, which we all love, is Marc-Andre Fleury. But I think what hurts him is how he splits time.
You guys keep taking all my guys, man. You're taking all my guys.
I'm done talking. Nicky T.
It's funny. No, I mean, would Vegas be anywhere near where they are right now without Marc-Andre Fleury? But again, I mean,
does that hurt him?
What's that?
Does the splitting of time hurt him?
I don't think for the award it wouldn't. I mean, I don't know. It's I mean, more and more, it's goalies are 1 and 1A, and that's what you're going to see. It is more splitting time. I don't think it was it really split right down the middle?
Well, put it this way: Vasilevsky played 42 games. Connor Hellebuck played 44 games. Fleury played 35.
Yeah.
So that's 20. So he didn't play 20. He played 35. Didn't play 21 more games. So I guess. And he got the lion's share.
And his numbers are still up there now. So
yeah, no, I'm not arguing. The guy. See, the problem with him, and it has nothing to do with getting the award, is he's had many very good years. It's just that he's not a playoff goalie, and I would love to see him follow up a very strong season and carry the team through the playoffs. Lerner carried the team through the playoffs last year. It wasn't Fleury. And every year that the Penguins won the cup, it was Matt Murray, the most recent ones. So
that's why I hate him.
But
Penguins.
So well, yeah,
I can't stand him.
All right. So who's your selection, Nicky Nuts?
I would have to go with I agree with Vance. Absolutely, he is awesome.
Vasilevsky. All right. Now, granted, Grubauer had a pretty damn good year as well, but I do agree it's Vasilevsky's award to win. Now we get to slam dunks. Hart Trophy, the league's MVP. Well, first of all, the Art Ross goes to the leading scorer, so that's already predetermined. It's going to go to Connor McDavid. Now, the one preseason prediction I think I got right was the Hart Trophy winner, the MVP, Connor McDavid. Does anyone, by way of hands, disagree with Connor McDavid winning the Hart Trophy?
Nicky Nuts, Claude Giroux, right?
Yeah, right.
No. Beauvillier.
Beauvillier. Yep, Beauvillier. He's hands down my MVP.
Beauvillier.
So, I mean, that's pretty much the.
Yeah, that kid is awesome.
The only, and we'll focus on him in a minute. But, gentlemen, is there a Jack Adams candidate that jumps out at you? Vance.
Quenneville, Florida. What do you guys think?
I like that.
I like it too.
I mean, I'm also a
Laviolette.
Barry Trotz guy. Yeah,
you could go there too.
I mean, Laviolette inherits a powerhouse, but
still,
yeah. Sullivan. I mean,
they haven't changed a beat, that team, since even after they changed goalies. I mean, that team, they're still just a hard-fighting, hard-nosed team. And I don't really think it matters what coach is in there. They're going to play that way regardless, just because of their personnel.
Well, they have wonderful veterans.
Yeah, they really do. They do.
Veterans. So, yeah, all the guys we mentioned are wonderful candidates. Quenneville, Sullivan,
I would even go
Brind'Amour too. Yeah, Brind'Amour too.
Yeah, you can make that argument too.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Absolutely, you could. Brind'Amour and Brind'Amour is an interesting topic for another day. He could be available. Rumor has it, because they want, I believe, him to change some of his staff, and he's refusing to. So we'll see where that goes.
Bring him home, baby. Bring him home.
If it were only that easy.
God, I'd do that in a second with Rick Tocchet as his assistant coach.
Well, if part of his gripe is keeping his staff, I don't know if that would be the case, but who knows? All right, so we talked about our consensus Hart Trophy winner being Connor McDavid. Now, Connor McDavid in today's hockey, mind you, where you can go multiple years without a 100-point score, got 100 points in 53 games. Hadn't been done in 25 years. Yager and Lemieux did it the same year. Mm-hmm. And I want to point out, gentlemen, that in 34 games in the 83-84 season, the great one scored 100 points in 34 games. But Vance, talk to us about what such an accomplishment really means in today's NHL.
Yeah, I think it's a completely different league than the league in the 80s. And I think it's a much harder league at this point to score 100 points in. And at this point, Connor McDavid, he pretty much is making a mockery, out of the league at this point. He's gotten really comfortable and he's dominated this season. Like you said, it hasn't been done in 25 or 26 years. And I think this is just the beginning for him. I think, over the years, we've saw him, getting more comfortable, and getting a little better year by year. But I really think that, this year and the years after, we're looking at a dominant player for the next at least 10 seasons that's going to do this over and over and over again. And I think this is just the beginning of something really special for him. And also, that team. That's a team that when I look at them, because of him and Draisaitl, not this year, but over the next 5 years, I expect him to win at least 2 cups. Mm-hmm. I think he's that dominant in his sport. Right now, he's as dominant in his sport as any other player in any other sport. As a matter of fact, I dare to say he's probably more dominant because what he's doing, it doesn't happen in other leagues. You don't see that kind of dominance.
No.
So it's really been an outstanding season. And, from my perspective, I wish that I had the chance to see him play more. Yes. And hopefully during these playoffs, I'll be staying up late, because we'll have a lot to talk about during the playoffs. Hopefully we all get to watch a little bit closer.
Now, Nick, again, I'm going back to my old school days. As far as skating ability, I watched a few games that he played lately, and my jaw dropped. The speed, the size, the stride length, it's just incredible. I saw Pavel Barry skate.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if you guys remember Russ Courtnall. Russ Courtnall wasn't a tremendous goal scorer, but the guy flew. Fedorov flew. Bondra flew. Coffey flew. But I've never seen a skater like this kid. Never.
No.
Nick Tosti, please talk to me about this kid's skating ability.
I saw him play when Edmonton came here a couple of years ago, live. If you take a scouting rubric, if you're a scout that goes to analyze NHL hockey players or whatever kind of hockey player, you have a specific kind of rubric where you check from 1 to 10 all of these skill set, hockey IQ, all those things. He checks a 9 or a 10 in almost every single box. I mean, the kid is so well rounded. And to skate as fast as he skates and put it all together with handling, like you're going faster than everybody else, but you're still handling the puck. You're still looking at the ice. You're still thinking about what your next play is going to be. Vance, if they win 2 cups in the next 5 years, he's going to track legendary status and go down in history as the second best hockey player ever to live.
No argument.
He will pass Lemieux, and he's already going to pass Crosby with that status, but he will surpass Lemieux as the second greatest hockey player ever to live if he stays on this path, or even obviously he's young and he could even go beyond what we're seeing right now. The kid is just unreal. I remember. I mean, I don't know if you guys watched. I was glued to Erie Otters games as much as I could possibly be when he was playing juniors. And that line of him, DeBrincat, and Strome was one of the most fun things I've ever seen in junior hockey ever. It was so much fun to watch. And I watch them all the time. He is just magical, man. He is just so special. And you're right, Vance. It's such a shame that we're on the East Coast here and we really don't get to see him play that much. I would die to see him play every night. I mean, I'd watch every game. I mean, it's too late and I'm getting old. So I'm not staying up for midnight anymore, but it's magical. It really is. It's awesome. And I love it. He's a great kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So again,
plus with the COVID, we didn't get to watch them because they played all Canada. So we very rarely got to see them. Plus we didn't get to see them play us or kick our asses, And he is a remarkable player. The one word that I would put, effortlessly. He just does everything like it looks like it doesn't take any ounce of energy or ability to do. And when you can do that with the greatest players in the world and make it look like you're not trying, that is impressive to all end.
The game is the Matrix to him right now.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great point.
Good. So, guys, in football, there's a saying with wide receivers, fast guys, if he's even, he's leaving. And one thing you notice about McDavid, when he gets going and he gets going up the ice, once he turns the corner, there's nobody in the league that's going to catch up with him. And the crazy thing is, when I watch him, he scores goals from angles that you really shouldn't be able to score from.
Yep. And
goalies can't stop it because he's moving so fast. Next thing you know, the puck is in the net.
I think they're mesmerized by his movement at times and are not concentrating on their positioning at times. I think he's that startling when he comes at you. It's just he's dynamic. When I watched the game where he got his 100 points, and I just only focused on him and how he loops around. He's just lightning in the bottle. I've never seen anything like it. I was texting Nick that night in complete and utter awe.
He's magical.
He is magical.
Magical. Yep.
All right. Enough of talking about someone we don't have.
Yeah.
It's the Onions. I swear it's the Onions. So the playoffs. I think we alternate. So we'll be talking about the Flyers in the playoffs next year. So let's discuss each division real fast and who we anticipate winning the first round. Do you guys? I'll leave this up to you. Do you want to just go through the whole prediction, or do you just want to do this week? We'll do round one winners.
Let's do round one winners.
All right, so we won't go too deep.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, round one winners. So Now, the only division that it's still not certain, it's going to be my speculation, is the West. So we'll start with the Central and end with the West. The Central has locked in Carolina number 1 versus Nashville number 4, Florida number 2 versus Tampa number 3. Now, gentlemen, Carolina has a 6-2 record throughout the year against Nashville. Florida, believe it or not, was 5-2 and had an overtime loss against Tampa. So, Nikki T, who gets through the Carolina-Nashville series?
Carolina.
Florida, Tampa Bay.
Tampa.
Vance, Carolina-Nashville.
Carolina.
Vance, Florida, Tampa Bay.
Tampa.
Nikki Nuts, Carolina-Nashville.
Same. I'll make it easy. Same.
Florida, Tampa Bay.
Yep. Same.
Same with me. Okay, moving on. I have to go Tampa Bay. They were my cup winners, so I have Tampa Bay. But I also think Tampa Bay is going to just.
Yeah, I got Carolina as my cup winner.
Okay, well, you're in great shape. So I have Carolina and Tampa Bay moving on. Also, Eastern Division. What a tight race that was at the end. So the Pens turned out to be the number 1 seed. Islanders number 4. Caps 2. Bruins 3. So. Nikki T, who do you have? Pens, Isles.
Pens.
Who do you have? Caps, Bruins.
Caps.
Vance, Penn, Isles.
Pens, the Capitals. I mean, I have the Pens. The Islanders can't score.
Okay. And
Islanders stink.
I have the Nikki T hates the Islanders.
I picked up on that.
I've got the Caps over the Bruins too.
All right. I'm gonna save you for last, Nuts. I have the Pens and Caps as well. Now I'll go to you, Nikki Nuts.
I have Pens and Caps as well.
Oh my God. It's like we're morphing our minds. The North. Toronto number 1 versus Montreal 4, Edmonton 2, Winnipeg 3. Both those teams. Oh, let me remind you also, guys. In the East, the Penguins had a 6-2 record versus the Islanders this year, and the Capitals were 6-2 against the Bruins this year. Now the North, both favorites were 7-2 against their opponents this year. So if you go to chalk, we're going to think the same way again. Toronto, Montreal, Edmonton, Winnipeg. Nikki T.
Yep, Toronto.
And Edmonton?
And Edmonton, yep.
Vance, same?
Same.
Nuts, same?
Yep.
Dan, same? Yep. And the West is a tough one because they're still not done their schedule. But as of now, it would be the Knights playing the Blues and the Avalanche playing the Wild. Who do you have, Knights, Blues?
Oh,
Nick.
God.
I think that's the one where we may possibly see an upset. I mean, to not go chalk all the way through, that would be the one where I don't go chalk, but I'm going to go chalk and go Vegas and Colorado. But I do think if there's an upset anywhere, it could be St. Louis beating the Golden Knights.
Yep.
Series.
Well, the only argument I have with that is I'm hoping that Vegas has a bad taste in their mouth from last year and wants it really badly. The Blues, of course, have the Stanley Cup pedigree, so I get where you're coming from. But I really think the Knights are a dynamic team. But I totally get what you're saying. That'll be our next quick segment, Dark Horses. Vance, do you agree with Carolina, Colorado as well?
Carolina, Colorado.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. Knights. I'm sorry. Knights in Colorado.
Yeah, I'm picking both of those. I'm picking both of those teams as well. I do feel like we'll talk about dark horses in a minute. I'll wait.
Right.
For now, I'll go with that.
And Mr. Nuts.
Yeah, I agree with everything Nick said. I think the Vegas game could go either or. But
give me your slam dunk though. I'm not slam dunk, but give me your conviction.
Right now, I would pick Vegas and
Colorado. As would I. Now, Vance, since you were about to start it, let's go with our. Now, this is hard based on chalk because I mean, literally, we really went chalk here, and it wasn't hard to go chalk because every team that we picked, other than Florida, had a pretty dominant record over their opponent. Now, even Florida was 5-2. and won, the one being an overtime loss to Tampa Bay, but we all went Tampa Bay. So, Vance, who is your dark horse to potentially shake all this up?
To me, it's the Minnesota Wild.
Yep.
I think they have a chance in that series. I don't think that they'll beat Colorado, but looking at the numbers, the numbers aren't too far off. I think they finished 3 points behind Colorado. Not sure what the matchup was head to head, but just looking at the numbers, it looks like it could be an interesting series and not one that, Colorado is going to run away with. And I don't know. And, they're also going into the playoffs playing well. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10.
Yeah.
So, who knows?
Vance, since I was a mind reader in my early years, Colorado has a 5-2-1 record against the Wild.
Okay.
But I get what you're saying. Nick, who would be your dark horse?
I'm gonna go with St. Louis, assuming I know there's a late report out that Tarasenko is hurt or maybe lower body. I don't know. I mean, assuming he's there, assuming they're healthy, I'm gonna say St. Louis could potentially in a full series, taking it all the way through, could launch an upset there.
And Nicky Nuts?
I'll actually go with two dark horses that could possibly be.
I hope you don't take mine.
I was going to go with the Blues as well, as Nick just said, and I would even go Boston beating Washington.
Okay, that's I like that. I also think the Blues would be a scary opponent. I also think Minnesota is a very scary opponent, but I am going to go Winnipeg as a dark horse. I think they're a damn good team. And they have the better goalie.
Yes, they do.
But we also just described the exploits of Draisaitl and McDavid and company. So it's going to be a tough one. But they had a really solid game. They had a 5-0 shutout in their last performance. They just have a really fine club. And in honor of my buddy Jamie Leach, who really pumped them up. You remember, Vance?
Yeah, he did.
I'm going to pick them as my dark horse. So
Dan, as funny as it sounds, they were my initial pick as a dark horse, and then I saw their record against Edmonton, and I backed off of that really quick.
Yeah, but no, I agree with you. They're 2-7, but every team has as much as 2 wins versus their opponent.
Right.
So it's crazy how there's not one 4-4 or 4-3-1. Everything's the closest an opponent is to Florida is 5-2-1 against Tampa Bay, and Colorado is 5-2-1 against the Wild. Everyone else is 6-2, 7-2, 6-1-1. So there's really everyone is really if you do it strictly on chalk, has no chance.
Right.
But so
also, remember this is the playoff hockey, man. Any team that gets in the playoffs in hockey has a shot to win. I mean, that's what makes hockey playoffs so exciting, is because any given team that gets in the playoffs has a shot, and that's why we watch the playoff hockey.
Right. And not for nothing.
I've got one word for you. I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Vance.
No, I was going to say not for nothing, Dan. It's actually not a bad pick because it's not like Edmonton's stellar defensively.
Correct.
And Winnipeg can score, so I could see it being one of those high scoring series where maybe anything could happen. So
that's going to be a great series to watch. That's going to be a great series to watch.
That's going to be my favorite division to watch.
Listen, Flyers fans might think that they're playing a different sport if they watch that series.
Exactly, man. You're right.
You're right. And I've got one word for all of you. Khudobin. Look what he did last year. He took to me a mediocre Dallas team, and that was probably the quintessential standing on your head type of goalie performance that I've seen in a long time. He was tremendous. So, who is going to be that goalie this year? We shall see. That's what makes, as Nicky said, the playoffs extremely fun. Vance, what time is it?
It's time for the penalty box.
All right, is my mic on? Is my mic on?
Yeah, that came back right away.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the computer makes a difference. So tonight's penalty box segment, and in order to do that, I got to get rid of the fancy schmancy. Is going to build on the Stanley Cup playoff theme that we're talking about. But before I talk about the actual topic, today's penalty box segment is sponsored by Fuse Barbershop, 2834 Eagle Road, Newtown, Pennsylvania, Village at Newtown. Again, the most cool atmospheric barbershop you will see in the Delaware Valley. I encourage you to go, and you will get 20% off your first visit. All right. So, gents, I went with the topic of teams that, if you would have told me before the year started, would have won the Stanley Cup, it would have probably turned some heads. Shockers. Okay, so here's our penalty box topic. Cup shockers. And since there's four of us, I went with four selections. So, and some of you might be like, why are these considered shockers? Well, we will try to explain why. So, Nikki T, can you start us off why our Flyers of 1973-74 are considered shockers?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of our viewers will probably say that wasn't a shocker, since they both went into the postseason with roughly the same record. The Bruins were 52-17-9. The Flyers were 50-16-12. But the thing was, the Flyers were in their, they were one of the expansion teams going against one of the original six powerhouses. And, nobody really gave the Flyers a chance. They just thought they kind of bullied their way into the playoffs and down into the Cup final that year. And they're going to have to go up and against the big bad powerhouse of Boston and Bobby Orr. And I think they lost the first game of that series, and which, I'd love to see what the Vegas odds were going into game two of that Stanley Cup final, and what the odds were that the Flyers would come back and win that series. But I mean, they did it, and they did it with a lot of grit, and they did it with some finesse, and they were able to show the world that or put their stamp on the fact that they were they were going to be a team that to contend with, and obviously winning the next year after that as well. But overall, it was I think it was more or less about them being, only their sixth or seventh year in the league, and as an expansion team, really going up against a powerhouse, the original six thing and all that, to me makes it feel like it's a shocker. And, in hindsight's 2020. You go back now and it doesn't look like it was all that much of a shocker. But given that time, if you could just kind of travel back in time and go into that series, I think for sure. Most people would say that Boston was the heads-on favorite to just, annihilate us in that game, which they didn't. And the Flyers were able to bring home their first of two Stanley Cups, which was great.
And it goes back to the goalie. I mean, Bernie was amazing, and the Bruins had Gilles Gilbert in goal, who wasn't quite as dominant as Bernie Perron. But think about it. Bobby Orr, Phil Esposito, Wayne Cashman, Johnny Busick. They had some really talented players on that Boston Bruin team. Vance, why are the 1986 Montreal Canadiens on my list?
Yeah, so it's a very interesting team. So they sprinkled in one cup amongst the that big Edmonton Oilers run in the
Correct.
80s. The Oilers won the cup, 4 out of 5 years. And the one team to put a dent in that was the Montreal Canadiens. They had a very unassuming season, finishing second in the Adams division at 40-33-7 that season, with a total, I believe, of 87 points going into the playoffs. And they got into the playoffs and they rolled. They did get a little bit lucky. It looks like the Flyers and Capitals, who both scored over 100 points that year, got bounced relatively early.
Rangers took us out.
The Rangers took us out 3-2, and the Capitals lost to who did they lose to that year?
Hartford, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. So Montreal, they get in the playoffs and they roll. They go 15-5. I believe they win. And another thing is Edmonton gets knocked out in Game 7, versus Calgary in the Western Conference Finals. So yeah, this Montreal team rolls. They go 15-5 in the playoffs. They beat Calgary 4-1 in the Stanley Cup Finals, and no one saw it coming that year. And that team, was anchored by Patrick Roy. I believe he might have been a rookie that season.
Nick,
I think he was.
Yeah, I think he came up mid-year, right?
Yeah, Patrick Roy, Stéphane Richer, and also Claude Lemieux. A couple guys that were going to haunt us with the Devils.
Gingras might have been on that team.
Right. And we all know Claude Lemieux and Stéphane Richer. They went on to haunt us years later with the Devils in the early 90s. So, yeah, unexpected run by the Canadiens that year. And, out of that period, what was that, a 6-year period where, what was it, Edmonton won 4, and then Montreal won 1, and Calgary won the other one, right?
Yeah, Montreal and Calgary sprinkled in. And it's funny, Calgary, I'm going to give you a little anecdotal history here. Calgary faced Montreal in that cup. And the reason the Oilers didn't probably win 5 in a row, because I think if the Oilers played the Canadiens, it might have been different. The Oilers and the Flames had such a brutal, fierce rivalry, as did the Canadiens and Nordiques back in the day. But if you remember, Nick, ET, I think the other two might be too young. Steve Smith, late in the game, tried to clear the puck, and he hit Grant Fuhr in the back of the leg, and it ricocheted into the net. And that ultimately cost them the series against Calgary. And Steve Smith, who to me was a tremendous defenseman.
He was good.
He went on to play with Chicago as well. Just a great defenseman. Took a lot of heat for a while because of that moment. And that stopped it would have been a three-peat for them. And like you said, they won 4 in 5 years. But because of Steve Smith letting Calgary get to the finals, Montreal just rode Patrick Roy. And what's also great about that, I don't want to steal your thunder, it was an aging Montreal team. They had Larry Robinson, they had Bob Gainey, but they also had a young Chris Chelios on that team. Mm-hmm. So it was a talented team. It was a talented team. Now I have the privilege of discussing the 1990 Oilers, and you're thinking, Vance just said they won 4 cups in 5 years. Well, why is this even an issue? Why is this why are they on the list? I'll tell you why. Gretzky was traded.
Yeah,
Gretzky was traded in the summer of '88 for the '88-'89 season. I believe the Oilers owner, who I can see his face, but I'm completely drawing a blank on his name, was having financial difficulties, and he essentially sold them to the Kings. Now, in that trade, you know, we talked about back in the day, what the Avalanche got for Lindros, if the Rangers had consummated the deal and the Flyers ultimately got the deal. But here's what happened with that trade. The Oilers gave up Gretzky, McSorley, and Krushelnytsky, and they got Jimmy Carson, Martin Gelinas, the Kings' first-round picks in '89, '91, '93, and $15 million. Now, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Was Luc Robitaille in that trade anywhere or no?
No.
So Dan, what about Bernie Nichols?
Bernie Nichols was not in that trade. He was
never played for. Okay, all right.
He was later on the Kings.
Right. Okay.
So what happened was they had a very solid '88, '89 year, but the Flames won the cup. And maybe I'm actually wrong. Maybe that was the Steve Smith year, but I know Steve Smith had a hand in messing up the Oilers run. So, but here's what makes that trade interesting. Jimmy Carson at the time was 20 years old, and he had 92 goals under his belt already. So he scored, I think, 50 goals and 42 goals in his first 2 years in the NHL. So he was the gem, we thought, of the trade. But he didn't want anything to do with Edmonton. So he played 1 year there and wanted out. He wanted to go back to his hometown team. Well, when they traded him to the Kings, they got Peter Klima, Adam Graves, and Joe Murphy in return for Jimmy Carson. And that crew, along with Jelena, got them over the hump in 89-90 with, of course, the leadership of Messier, Huddy, Lowe, and company. And they went on to dominate the Bruins in 5 to win the 1990 Cup. And you often have one of those moments where you say to yourself, is Gretzky kicking himself? Is Gretzky kicking himself? You know, did he wish? Oh, I'm sorry, I messed up the graphic here. Somehow it shrunk on its own. So, you know, I wonder if it eats at Gretzky to this day that he leaves and they ultimately won a 5th cup without him. But that's why the 90 Oilers made our list, because Gretzky was not part of that team. And it was a trade. You know, sometimes when you trade a star, i.e. Charles Barkley, you never went out on a trade. But the Oilers did well for themselves on that trade. And as the years went on, they just kept selling players. They were just, you know, all the legends started going. Nicky Nuts. Why are the 2019 St. Louis Blues on our list?
Gloria, Gloria. We got that song back, and it started right here in Philadelphia after they won in a bar in Manayunk. And
famous blues bar, yeah.
The great thing about this team is, dude, they fired their coach. Greg Berube took them over, and they became a completely different team. And Ryan O'Reilly, I fell in love with him that year. He did everything that he had to do for there. They had Tarasenko back there as well, helping out. The way they played the game almost brought me back to the old style hockey where they just grinded and they just willed themselves to beat you every night. And what they did, they had Braden Shen on there. They came together as a team, and it all started with that song, Gloria.
And if I'm correct, gentlemen, weren't they in last place in January?
Yep.
They were.
Yep.
And they just went on a magic run.
Yep.
Vance, would you like to add anything to the 2019 Blues?
No, not much. I just remember it being a shock to everybody. I know Bennington played really well too.
Yes, awesome.
You know, that year he kind of came out of nowhere and stole the show a little bit. And that team, you know, when I think of a team about, you know, maybe the way that I would like the Flyers to play, you know, a team that was strong down the middle, but, you know, supplemented their talent with, you know, speedy wingers or a strong winger that could score goals like Tarasenko. Like, you know, this is the way that I look at this Flyers team. You know, they don't have a Pietrangelo or anything like that, but, you know, if you're going to build your team down the middle, that St. Louis Blues team is a really good team to look at as a model with how to build around, you know, your guys.
And Jaden Schwartz always steps up in the playoffs.
Right.
Yep. And just if you guys look at the Flyers in the last 2 games, most of their goals were off of shot rebounds. And that's how this team needs to play. I think with the personnel they have right now, if they would have just shot the puck more and had those guys around the net to get those rebounds, we would have been scoring at least 4 goals a night. If we just went back to where we started the season with. We started just shooting the puck, slinging it to the net and grinding at the front of the net, and we were winning. And they changed all that. I don't know who went where or who said what or who's responsible, but that's what they needed to do all year is just sling the puck there, have your big guys right there, and you got a couple guys that have okay hands like Haynes, Hazy. You could have Coots there. You could have JVR, but that's how they had to make their goals. And they got away from that. We want to be a passing team. We want to be a finesse team. You're not that. Stop trying to be that. Do what gets you goals. And that's doing the grinding and doing the hard stuff. And that's where I think the Flyers lost their way this year. And that was my little tidbit on why the Flyers suck this year.
Nikki, can we get Nikki Nut sponsored by like a nut company or something?
I know. Planters Peanut
Planners.
is going to join us soon. That's funny. And what's that pistachio company that's always on now?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
Planners. Got to get Planners.
All right. Well,
Isn't there another one, Steelhouse or something like that?
we got to work on that.
Let's do it.
But ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the Ross Lonsberry episode 18 version of Flyer and Ice, brought to you by the Heat Ratio Sports Network. Please join us on all socials. Like us, subscribe, tap that bell on YouTube. But before we leave, Nick, please give us one more shout out and detail the guest we're having next week.
Next podcast, which is going to be a week from today, Wednesday, 4:30 p.m. That is May 19th. If you don't know the name, Chris Peters, Google it, look at it on Twitter.
Hockey Sense.
Hockey Sense with Chris Peters. He's got a resume and a half. He is the Mel Kiper of hockey when it comes to analyzing youth players and talent as it pertains to the upcoming NHL draft and kids that are on track for that. And if you want to get some good insight on where the Flyers should pick and who they should pick, when they pick, as well as some of the youngsters in our system that he feels like can contribute sooner than later, you are not going to want to miss this podcast. Chris Peters is going to be our guest. He's coming on this show, and it's going to be awesome.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, I believe playoff hockey starts Saturday. So it's the best sport to watch, playoff hockey. So on behalf of my buddies Vance and the Dual Knicks, I am Dan Green. We will see you next week with Chris Peters. Stay well, stay safe. Good hockey, everybody.
I need boards in front of me.